from our perspective, and you mentioned it, that kind of principle of least privilege, and going back to those kind of fundamentals, where is your most valuable data? Where are your most valuable resources? Who's got access to it? What level of access have they got? Should they have that level of access? Who's interacting with the data and the systems? What accounts do you have? And then if we take a look at the kind of the systems that are governing access to that data, even just the basic things in, say, Active Directory, say expired or inactive user accounts that are not being used anymore, just scattered all over the place, inactive service accounts that have got elevated privileges. We touched on that earlier as well. So I guess, I completely get it. And this is we preach this all the time. Do you think that organizations, when we look at it from a kind of a data centric approach, if we take data and kind of give it that kind of tangible value, do you think organizations really have a grip on the value of the data that they actually hold? And do you think that for the most part the security controls are actually adequate around the data from what you've seen?
So I will divide the answer to two, right? I think that organizations are becoming more and more aware of the quality, importance, and potential of the data that they have and the potential of data breach and the consequences to the business. So they understand what they hold, they understand where the data is being held. However, when it comes to the security controls, this is the second part of your question, I think there is still a gap that is coming from my point of view, mainly from the, let's say, the balance between usability, functionality, and security. So just to talk about that for a second. So, if the data, all the data that you collect is encrypted, stored in a safe, and no one can access it, then of course it's not usable, right? And if you need the data for the business, then you created some kind of business obstacle. So if we look at it from the business point of view, the data is required in order to have functioning processes, procedures to support the business. Then you need to tailor the security controls around that. That is something that is much more challenging. So, from business sensitive data like intellectual property and financial information, all the way to private information, just being able to identify the data, have a security policy per data item, and integrate the relevant security controls. Those are the 1, 2, 3 that you need to do with your data. So around the 1 and 2, maybe that's something that we see organizations really getting more and more advanced. Regarding the third item, protecting the data, least privilege, encryption, tokenization, even signing the data if the data is sensitive for integrity, right? And not only for confidentiality. Those are things that are a little bit lagging behind. So I would say that in most cases, of course, we've seen organizations that are doing that in a very efficient way. However, I think that it's very hard to see someone that is doing that in a sufficient way. Mm-hmm. So that's something that we still see as a major gap. Data is something that is very hard to protect with the given solutions that we have today. So it should be a combination of technologies, processes, procedures, behavior, and culture of the organization in order to protect the data in the right place or in the right way. And that's something that is definitely not easy and not really well functioning in a lot of organizations. I will say though that there are some organizations that are making huge progress in those specific in this specific space, and they are becoming more and more mature around it.
Mm. And do you think, when we're talking about users, not necessarily security professionals within a business or any way related to IT, do you think that, just standard users, do you think they generally understand the tangible value of the data that they're interacting with? Because I don't believe it. I think that, even if we give it an associated risk level based upon the content of the file, that they might be copying or sharing or emailing to a colleague, until we actually tell them, that file's worth $50,000, I don't think they really equate how much how much value this data actually holds. Do you know? Do you know what I mean?
Of course, and there's a difference between, let's say, the regular simple employee and the organization as a, let's say, strategic unit, right? So in the organization, when we talk with the CISO will understand that. The data protection officer will understand that. The finance guy or the finance team that just sending a basic file for a review of their colleague from a different company, just give do me a favor and have a look at this Excel file with the data. Yeah, they don't always understand the value of what they just shared. That's for sure. And sometimes it's much worse than that, right? Sharing information even without paying attention. You just attach the wrong file. Very simple, right? You wanted to attach file 1 and you attached file 2, and now you've sent very detailed customer information. Even, one proposal of one customer to a second customer. That's something that we do quite a lot. We see quite a lot in a lot of organizations, and that's something that is very hard to deal with. But when talking at the organization level, I'm trying to think about the bulk of the data. The most, let's say, the databases, right, where you have most of the information and not sporadic specific information items, which can have, of course, a very high value. Don't get me wrong. I mean, a single file in the wrong hands can cause a very significant damage. I'm not saying that that's not an option. Just saying, when you talk about 2 million customers that you have, for example, as a retail organization, right, and you have data and credit cards of 2 million users, it's totally different if you have 5 users that were leaked or 2 million users that were leaked, right? It's a different type of a breach, and that is what I was referring to with understanding of the organization. But to your point, I'm 100% with you. Users or employees need to improve significantly their awareness towards data-related breaches and, in general, cybersecurity-related attacks and threats that are relevant in the organization.